Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr., and welcome to part two of my top 25 greatest films of the 1990s. So please remember, this is just my opinion. These are the films that I grew up watching in my young life and sort of helped shape my taste in movies. So, with that said, I'm going to pick up right where we left off at number 15, 1991's The Silence of the Lambs from director Jonathan Demme, who passed away and left a great legacy of films: Married to the Mob, Something Wild, Philadelphia. And this is one of those movies I had no business watching as a young child. Uh, we had pay-per-view, so I watched whatever was coming on that day. And The Silence of the Lambs played on loop for weeks, I believe, when it was on pay-per-view. Uh, so, yeah, I caught it here and there, bits and pieces as a kid, and just knew that it scared the living daylights out of me. And I didn't comprehend most of the adult themes in the movie at that age. It wasn't until about the age of 13, 14, came back to it after already watching the Jasons and the Freddys and the Chucky movies, and then watched this film and realized that this was in a league of its own and completely understood why it got the accolades and Oscar attention. Well deserved, because Anthony Hopkins is chilling all throughout this movie in all of his scenes behind the glass. Every time he's sort of looking right at you, he's looking right at the camera, looking right into your soul as he's talking, and it's always very, very, very creepy. And Jodie Foster is very good as Clarice. Almost makes me sort of sad that she didn't come back in the sequel, but Julianne Moore did put out a really good performance in that film. But this first film was still untouchable. The sequels couldn't come close to it, and most of the 90s serial killer films that would come out after this, trying to sort of duplicate the success of this film, couldn't come close to it as well, except for David Fincher's Seven from '95. That one comes close. For some people, maybe it tops Silence of the Lambs, but for me, Silence of the Lambs is the definitive serial killer film of the 1990s. And that great twist at the end, when they're in the house, the whole thing with the cops and the bait and switch. Um, oh shit, spoilers! I guess I should say fucking spoilers, sorry. Uh, yeah, Silence of the Lambs. Cannot say enough good things about this movie, and eventually I might do a full-on review on it. So yeah, number 15, without a doubt. Number 14, Terminator 2: Judgment Day, also released in the same year, 1991, from director James Cameron. This is another James Cameron masterpiece, and I remember being so thankful to my cousin Stanley, because he had shown me the first film about a week before we went to go see this at the drive-in with my dad. And it's one of the best experiences at the drive-in I've ever had in my entire life. I'll never forget it. Um, Seeing the Sarah Connor scene where she sees Arnold, the T-800, for the first time as he's walking out the elevator. After having watched the first film, even at the age of, like 7, I guess, I completely got it. I loved that movie so much. And so going into this movie, yeah, it gave me the chills. And watching it on the big screen, there has never been anything like Terminator 2 ever since. And I don't know if there ever will be. But yeah, this is one of the greatest action movies ever made, bar none. And certainly Arnold's crowning achievement. And I love part one, but part two is, it's part two. So yeah, to me, it is one of the vital go-to 90s movies when I want to do sort of like a throwback watch, an action movie watch of back in the day. When I want to go to the best of the best as far as the 90s goes, it doesn't get any better than Terminator 2: Judgment Day. A movie with spectacle, great action, great set pieces, but a story that has layers to it because of the mythology. It's so rich, and because of the backstory with the first film. it just makes you think. And if you think long enough, it'll eventually hurt your head when you think about the whole Kyle Reese, uh, going back in time and just all that stuff with all that John Connor, Kyle Reese stuff. You think about it long enough, yeah, it hurts your head. So you just try not to think about it too much. Sometimes you just want to sit back, enjoy the ride, and Terminator 2 is just one of the greatest rides you've ever had as far as action movies go. So yeah, number 14. Number 13 is a movie that thrilled the hell out of me. I saw it twice in the theaters when it came out in the summer of '93 from director Andrew Davis, The Fugitive. One of the greatest films I've ever seen in my life, and Harrison Ford was overlooked for Oscar from the Academy, from any kind of. The man has never even won anything. He was nominated for Witness in '85, but Harrison Ford, the Harrison Ford, has never won one of these awards. And I would have thought if he was ever going to get one, it would have been for The Fugitive, because he is so great as Richard Kimball. And yeah, Tommy Lee Jones, well deserved his Oscar. He got one for Best Supporting Actor, and you watch that movie, he completely steals the movie. But Harrison Ford is the heart and soul of that movie, and it's so damn suspenseful. Even upon rewatch, it's exciting because it's so all the sequences, all the action sequences are not like spectacular or just not bombastic, not loud. They're well thought out, well crafted. Actually, no, don't get. Actually, no. Sorry, there are two spectacular action sequences actually, but this movie doesn't go for spectacle. Overall, it's it's a story about a man trying to uncover who killed his wife. So he's kind of Richard Kimball. Besides being a doctor, he's also a sort of a detective, as he tries to investigate what happened about a year ago, because I think when the murder happens, it's supposed to be about a year into the. Well, I think the movie's at least between the beginning of the movie and towards the end of the movie, I think a whole year goes by, and as you see him get an apartment and get a job and work as a janitor and helping people along the way, this had vibes of the TV show. And as a kid, I got familiar with the TV show because of this movie. I remember watching the movie and falling in love with it. So I remember noticing one day on the shelves at Blockbuster Video a copy of the TV show, a couple of VHS tapes. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to check out the pilot episode and some episodes. What a great show. The movie completely captured the vibe of the show. And yeah, I remember not that long after the movie, into the '90s, eventually they tried to make a TV show of it, but didn't quite live up to that kind of quality. The movie is 4 stars, first rate action thriller, and Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones are so much fun to watch in their roles, and so much fun to see the chase from the beginning to the end. It's one of those rare, high quality action movies that just doesn't come along as frequent as they used to back then. So yeah, The Fugitive, that's an all-time favorite. Let's see, 15, 14, 13. Number 12, from director Oliver Stone from 1991. 91 was such a great year for films. JFK, this is a movie that I rewatch over and over and over again, because much like I like to watch a lot of Scorsese stuff, because even with his longer films, the way they're paced, very sort of briskly paced and edited. This I can't see this being a shorter movie, because there's so much that they go into, that they talk about, so much like conspiracy theory stuff, and so much of an investigation. There's courtroom drama. There's it's a great sort of paranoia, period thriller there, and it really does feel like this movie is sort of a mourning experience. We're sort of mourning the loss of JFK all throughout this movie. It's really felt from the moment that in the opening of the film, you see on the news announcing the assassination, and as the characters in the movie are learning about it, you learn so much about this investigation to the point where you might just, if you're like me, get interested enough to the point where you fall down the rabbit hole and start looking up all kinds of facts and all kinds of old news footage and old clippings and stuff, because it's a really fascinating case and story. And the movie really sheds so much light on a lot of things that I think people never even thought of, even I'm sure back then, but I'm sure even now, has this has so many questions that to this day will, have never been answered and probably never will be. And I understand that they have publicly released a lot of secret files, a lot of confidential files, but there's a lot of stuff still in those files, and I checked it out for myself, that are still sort of blacked out. There's a lot of stuff that's still sort of taken out, or just black marker over it, or just blurry. But yeah, who knows if the truth will ever be out there fully. But this movie does a great job at exploring the possibility of a conspiracy and a coup, and it's very entertaining. And who knows if it's just purely fiction or if there's some truth to it. But as a movie, it's very well crafted, very well directed, and Kevin Costner gives an inspiring performance in this role. He plays the lawyer who's trying to uncover the conspiracy of who shot JFK. I'm blanking on his name. I know it's not Neff. Sorry, not Neff. Ness. Neff is the guy from Double Indemnity. Neff is the Untouchables. I'm getting my Neff and Ness mixed up. But yeah, great movie. JFK, definitely one of my favorite sort of documentary style biopics type movies. And 91, what a great film. What a great year for movies. Here we again, I don't know, coincidence or what, 91, but let's see, 15, 14, 13, 12, got to keep track. Number 11, Boys in the Hood. I gave a review about this movie on my channel already, because this is one of those movies I grew up watching over and over again because it's so entertaining. You feel like you sort of go through these experiences, these sort of day in the life experiences with these characters, and you go through moments of tragedy. There are moments that are funny, and it's really great just to hear Lawrence Fishburne give that speech to the kids and all the people when he's standing in this sort of vacant lot, and he's talking to Cuba Gooding Jr. and Maurice Chestnut about what's going on in their community around them. How how come you see everywhere you look, you see a gun store or a liquor store, the speech about how you go over to Beverly Hills, you don't see that, but it's obvious that the way society has positioned everyone, some people just are positioned better and some people are going to have it worse because of the certain, economic situations, I guess. The way he says it in the movie, he breaks it down way better than I can. I don't want to give you a verbatim word for word. I do memorize scenes of movies, but I can never do Lawrence Fishburne. I can never do his monologue justice. All I can say is it's a very interesting, point of view that he makes, and a lot of people, I think, if they haven't at least thought of the things he has to say in this film, because there are a lot of moments where he expresses a lot of expressions. It's my Sean Connery coming out. Now that's the lisp, sorry. Where he expresses a lot of honest, real feelings that a lot of people, I'm sure, go through, and this is a movie where I think a lot of people just weren't expecting this level of honesty from a writer-director about a real situation that is really going on just down the street in people's neighborhoods. Because not everybody lives in the best neighborhood, but some people live in a neighborhood that they know that the neighborhood's just down the way. Uh, they don't really go there because they have a feeling and they already know what it's like, so they just stay away from there. And I like when they make movies about stories and people that people don't normally make movies about, because it's always entertaining to see things that are sort of around you. And I grew up in not the nicest neighborhood, but it definitely wasn't anything as bad as Compton. But still, it was, sort of a, semi-ghetto. So, I could relate to certain things. I could understand uh, just the situation. And when you watch a movie that reflects real life and sort of hits certain notes that you just certain weren't you weren't expecting, especially me at such a young age watching this movie. But it hit pretty hard and stayed with me all throughout my life. So I come back to it again and again. Boys in the Hood. Yeah, I can go on and on about it forever. It's just one of those movies that just so well directed and so well acted by everyone involved. It's hard not to revisit it time and time again. It's a 90s classic. So that was what, 11? So yeah, I think we're gonna cut it there. That's part 2. Yeah, we could go a little lot more, but I'm breaking it up, trying to break it up because I'm at the top 10 now, and the top 10, I need a little time. I need a little, need to give the top 10 a little more breathing room, because that might be like a 20, 25 minute, maybe even 30-minute. I don't know if y'all ready for that, but yeah, I have a lot to say about the movies in my top 10. So I'm going to try and keep this part 2 a little more brief for everyone. So yeah, that was 15 through 11. And thank you very much for joining me. Those of you that are into classic movie reviews, please look out for my next review. Always talking about classic films from the 30s, 40s on up, well into the 90s, the modern classics. So thank you very much, and please share, comment, like, subscribe, as they say. And until next time, thank you very much, and God bless.